To Israel, Iran became a major threat, and in walks Netanyahu with his doctrine and his paranoia and his complete constant harping, stopping Iran at all costs. Because for him, Iran became the dominant geopolitical issue. He wanted to prevent Iran from developing those nuclear weapons. He wanted to stop Iranian military presence in Syria, disrupt Iranian weapons shipments to Hezbollah, no matter what he had to do. And he wanted military superiority, and that man worked tirelessly to build that. And they also then were showing their might by conducting hundreds of airstrikes in Syria targeting Iranian weapons and transfers. It was a real mess. Now, I want to talk about the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that happened in 2015. And you know, Israeli leadership, they didn't want that deal that Obama and John Kerry were cooking up. Netanyahu, he argued, and I have a video of him, he argued that it delayed, but it didn't stop Iran's nuclear capability. So he has been a hardliner forever. Okay? So this was the nuclear agreement, and it was negotiated under Obama, and Iran reduced. It was to happen. I'm going to show you what happened. Iran reduced uranium enrichment. International inspectors monitored facilities, and it was really widely considered effective. So let's check out a video.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Obama went head-to-head, in a manner of speaking, on the Iran nuclear deal. Obama defending it in a New York Times interview, Netanyahu slamming it on multiple U.S. news programs,
of course,
like CNN's State of the Union.
Not a single centrifuge is destroyed. Not a single nuclear facility is shut down, including the underground facilities that they built illicitly. Thousands of centrifuges will keep spinning, enriching uranium. That's a very bad deal.
The Prime Minister's media tour comes days after the U.S., allies, and Iran reached a framework of a deal in which the allies would reduce sanctions on Iran if it gives up the means to make nuclear weapons. Netanyahu added those lightened sanctions will lead to a strengthened economy for Iran.
And that's going to have billions and billions of dollars flow into the Iranian coffers, not for schools or hospitals or roads, but to pump up Iran's terror machine throughout the world, and it's a military machine that is now engaged in conquest throughout the Middle East.
In an Oval Office interview with New York Times op-ed columnist Thomas Friedman, President Obama said Israelis have every right to be concerned.
This is a regime that at the highest levels has expressed the desire to destroy Israel.
And said while the deal isn't optimal,
this is our best bet by far to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. And number two, what we will be doing even as we enter into this deal is sending a very clear message to the Iranians and to the entire region that if anybody messes with Israel, America will be there.
As the Prime Minister of the one and only Jewish state, when I see a country, a terrorist regime committed to our destruction, and not only to our destruction, having a clear path to the bomb, it's my obligation to speak out as I'm doing now, as I'll do in any forum.
The parties involved in the nuclear deal will now try to work out the details of a final agreement with a deadline of June 30th.
Okay, so you see, he just wasn't going to like that no matter what, Netanyahu. I mean, this has been festering in him for decades. And here comes Trump. Trump gets into office and he withdraws in 2018 Iran's nuclear ambitions were contained while the nuclear deal was active. They had over 1,300 advanced centrifuges used for enriching uranium in the years prior to the nuclear deal. When the agreement was in place, there were fewer than 50 advanced centrifuges in Iran. After President Donald Trump withdrew, well, what do you think Iran did? See how on the right? Then they started building it up. So it was like, how ridiculous was it to withdraw when actually it was working to a degree? It was working to a degree. Well, this was the Iran nuclear deal. And what the key details were to prevent Iran from developing this weapon. And they increased the breakout time to at least a year. The restrictions were, Iran said they had to agree. They actually had to agree to reduce their enriched uranium, which they did because I remember this, because they had watchdogs, and the United Nations took a lot of effort and interest in this. They did it. And they were going to reconfigure the Iraq heavy water reactor to prevent plutonium production. And the IAEA implemented extensive monitoring of Iranian nuclear facilities. Then they got their sanction relief. So the UN, the EU at that time, and the US began lifting the nuclear-related economic sanctions because they were getting verification of compliance. But when Trump came in, that was it. It was all over.